The sky tore open like a wound, vomiting fire and twisted metal into the void. The battle had raged for hours, Earth's last fleet against the armada of the Zeloth Dominion. They came in endless waves, their sleek obsidian warships blotting out the stars, drowning the battlefield in plasma fire. Humanity had fought like devils, but they were outgunned, outnumbered, and running out of time. Admiral Grant knew this was the end. His battlecruiser, the Iron Wrath, was down to its last reserves. Across the comms, desperate voices screamed for reinforcements that would never come. The last of Earth's defenses were crumbling. And then everything went silent. A ripple tore through space, a cold shadow swallowing the light. The Zeloth fleet hesitated. The humans did too. Something was coming. At first, it looked like a distortion, a shimmer of unreality moving through the wreckage. Then the shape emerged, blacker than the void itself, an ancient warship gliding through the battlefield like a specter. Its surface was pitted and scarred from battles long forgotten. Its silhouette was unmistakable. The Eidolon, a ghost ship, a myth. Every soldier in the Sol Federation had heard the legends. The Eidolon had vanished 300 years ago, swallowed by a failed hyperspace jump. No one had seen it since, until now. The Zeloth moved first, scanning the ship, trying to make sense of its impossible arrival. Then, as if it had sensed their curiosity, the Eidolon came alive. Its engines burned with unnatural fire. Its weapons hummed with energy unseen in human or alien arsenals. And then, it fired. A single shot, not plasma, not laser. A dark energy that didn't explode so much as erase. The nearest Zeloth cruiser never had a chance. It flickered, and then was simply gone, as if erased from reality itself. Panic spread through the Zeloth ranks. They opened fire, but their weapons were useless. Every bolt of plasma, every missile simply vanished before impact. Then the Eidolon answered. It moved through the enemy ranks like a phantom, slipping past shields, gliding through wreckage as if it wasn't bound by the same rules of physics. One by one, Zeloth warships ceased to exist, swallowed by the dark tide of the ghost ship's wrath. Admiral Grant watched in stunned silence. The Zeloth, those ruthless conquerors, the same creatures who had slaughtered billions, were retreating, running. But the Eidolon didn't let them go. One by one, it hunted them down, a silent executioner. There were no survivors, no wreckage, only the cold, endless void where once a mighty armada had stood. And then, as silently as it had come, the Eidolon turned. For a moment, Grant could swear it was looking at him, judging him, weighing something in the vast, unknowable abyss of its existence. Then, without a sound, it vanished. The battle was over, but deep in his bones, Admiral Grant knew one thing. The Eidolon had not come to save them. It had simply finished what it had started. Admiral Grant sat in the ruined bridge of the Iron Wrath, staring into the abyss where the Zeloth fleet had once been. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But it didn't feel like a victory. "Sir?" Commander Reeves's voice was hushed, as if speaking too loudly might summon the Eidolon back. "What? What do we do now?" The question hung in the air. Across the comms, the surviving ships of Earth's fleet were checking in, most of them barely functional. Engineers worked frantically to patch hull breaches, stabilize reactors, and restore life support. The reality of what had just happened hadn't fully settled in yet. Grant exhaled slowly. "We salvage what we can, get survivors aboard the least damaged ships, and we—" He hesitated, eyes drifting back to the void. How did you even begin to explain what had just happened? The Eidolon had saved them, but it hadn't acted like an ally. It hadn't answered their hails. It hadn't protected human ships, only annihilated the Ziloth, and the way it had erased those ships. Grant shivered. That wasn't human technology. Hell, it wasn't even alien technology. It was something else. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Lieutenant O'Hara said from the comms station. Her face was pale, her hands trembling over the controls. Grant strode over. "What is it?" She swallowed. "We picked up a signal right before the Eidolon disappeared. It was brief, fragmented." "Play it." A moment of static. Then a voice, old and distorted, rang through the bridge. "We are not dead. We were never dead. But we are not human anymore." Silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Grant's mouth went dry. "Run that through analysis," he ordered, keeping his voice steady. "Find out where it came from if there's more." But he already knew the answer. It came from the Eidolon. And whatever was on that ship, whatever those soldiers had become in the 300 years since they vanished, they weren't coming back as heroes. They weren't coming back as humans. They were something else now, and they had unfinished business. The Iron Wrath limped through the wreckage of the battlefield, its hull scorched, its systems barely holding together. The surviving ships of Earth's fleet followed behind, like wounded animals fleeing a predator they didn't understand. No one spoke of the Eidolon, but it was in their eyes, in the haunted silence that had settled over the bridge. Lieutenant O'Hara broke that silence first. "Sir, I ran the signal through every filter we have. There's more." Admiral Grant tensed. "More?" O'Hara nodded, voice unsteady. "I had to piece it together. Some of the data was corrupted, or maybe just wrong, but I managed to recover a full transmission." She hesitated before playing it, as if whatever she had found wasn't meant to be heard. Then the bridge speakers crackled to life. "We were left behind. We were abandoned. But we did not die. We could not die." A pause. "The void took us. It remade us. We are its children now." Grant clenched his fists. The voice was human, barely. There was something off about it, a distortion beyond just time and degradation. It sounded hollow, like it had been stretched too thin, as if the speaker was only imitating what it once was. Then came the final words, the ones that sent ice through his veins. "We remember what was done to us. We remember who left us. And we are coming back." Static swallowed the message. No one spoke. O'Hara swallowed hard. "Sir, what does that mean?" It meant something Grant had spent his whole career trying to forget. The Eidolon hadn't vanished by accident. 300 years ago, in the last war against the Ziloth, the Sol Federation had made a decision. A secret buried so deep only a handful of people ever knew the truth. The Idolon and its crew had been ordered into a suicide mission, a classified operation so desperate, so catastrophic, that command had erased it from history. The ship had been lost in a failed hyperspace jump, declared missing in action. That was the lie. The truth. The Federation had abandoned them. They had left the Idolon to die, and now it had returned, not as an ally, not as a savior, but as something else. Something that remembered, something that wanted revenge. Admiral Grant felt his pulse pounding in his ears. The Eidolon's message looped in his mind, each word pressing down like a weight. We remember what was done to us. We are coming back. Grant knew what that meant. The Idolon wasn't just some ghost ship wandering the void. It had a purpose, and that purpose was vengeance. The bridge remained deathly silent. No one wanted to speak, as if saying the words aloud might summon the ship back. Commander Reeves was the first to break the silence. Sir, this message. If they were abandoned, if we... He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. If the Federation left them behind, do they see us as the enemy? Grant didn't answer right away. He turned to O'Hara. Did we get a trace on where the signal came from? O'Hara swallowed hard. Yes, sir. The Eidolon jumped to the outer colonies. Specifically... She hesitated. It's headed for Archeon Prime. A sinking feeling settled in Grant's gut. Archeon Prime wasn't just some colony. It was the colony, one of the core worlds of the Sol Federation, a military stronghold, a symbol of human power. If the Eidolon wanted revenge, it wouldn't start with a backwater outpost. It would start with the Federation itself. Get me a channel to High Command, Grant ordered. O'Hara hesitated. Sir, if we tell them about this, we don't have a choice. Grant's voice was firm, but beneath it, doubt gnawed at him. What would High Command do? Would they listen? Or would they cover this up just like they had 300 years ago? Minutes passed as the comms team worked to establish a connection. When the holographic screen flickered to life, Grant was met with the cold, calculating stare of Admiral Lorick, one of the highest-ranking officers in the Federation. Admiral Grant, Lorick said, his voice smooth but devoid of warmth. I was informed you survived the battle. Congratulations. Grant clenched his jaw. Sir, we have a situation. I'm aware. The Zealoth fleet was destroyed, an unexpected but welcome outcome. Lorick folded his hands. You are to return to Earth for debriefing. Grant didn't back down. This isn't about the Zealoth. It's about the Eidolon. For the first time, Lorick's expression flickered. It was brief, barely a twitch, but Grant caught it. He knew. The Idolon is a myth, Lorick said smoothly. A war story. You're mistaken. We received a transmission, Grant snapped. They're alive, or something is, and it's heading straight for Archeon Prime. Silence. Lorick's eyes darkened. This conversation is over, Admiral. You will return to Earth, and you will not speak of this again. The screen cut to black. Grant exhaled slowly, rage and dread twisting inside him. They knew, Reeves murmured. They knew this whole time. Grant nodded. And now they're covering it up. Again. But it was too late. The Eidolon was coming, and this time no one would be able to stop it. The bridge was silent, the weight of High Command's dismissal hanging over them like a death sentence. Admiral Grant clenched his fists. He had expected denial, but not outright silence. They weren't going to stop the Eidolon. They weren't even going to try. Commander Reeves shifted uncomfortably. Sir, if High Command won't act, what do we do? Grant looked out into the void where the Eidolon had vanished. His gut told him one thing. Humanity was running out of time. We get to Archeon Prime first, he said. O'Hara looked at him like he was mad. Sir, we barely survived that battle. Our ships are in ruins, our crews exhausted. Even at full strength, we couldn't stop whatever the Eidolon is. She's right, Reeves added. We have no idea what we're dealing with. Grant turned to them, his voice hard. And if we wait, no one will be left to deal with it. The Eidolon isn't just some rogue ship, it's something worse. It wiped out an entire Zealoth fleet like they were nothing, and now it's heading for the Federation's most powerful colony. Reeves hesitated. You think it's going to attack? I think it's coming to finish what we started 300 years ago. O'Hara exhaled sharply. But why Archeon Prime? Grant hesitated. Because that's where the orders came from. Reeves's face paled. You mean... Grant nodded grimly. The men who gave the command to abandon the Eidolon. Their successors are still in power. High Command has spent centuries covering this up. If the crew of the Idolon remembers what happened to them, if they want revenge, then they'll burn Archeon Prime to the ground, O'Hara whispered. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Grant turned to the helm. Set course for Archeon Prime. Maximum speed. If High Command won't stop this, we will. The crew hesitated. They had just barely survived one impossible battle. Now Grant was asking them to fly straight toward another. But no one argued. The order was given. Engines roared to life. The stars stretched as the fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing toward the inevitable. Toward them. Toward the ghosts who had returned to claim their vengeance. The Iron Wrath hurtled through hyperspace, its damaged frame shuddering with every ripple in the void. The rest of the battered fleet followed, barely holding together. Engineering crews worked non-stop, welding hull breaches, rerouting power, patching weapons systems. But no amount of repairs would make a difference if they were too late. Admiral Grant sat in his quarters, staring at the classified files on his terminal. He had spent the past hour pulling every scrap of historical data on the Eidolon, hacking through layers of encryption High Command had buried it under. The truth was worse than he had imagined. 300 years ago, the Eidolon had been the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. It had been sent on a secret mission deep into Xyloth territory, a mission designed to fail. High Command knew it wouldn't return. The crew had been told they were going to disable a key Xyloth war station, but in reality, they were a distraction. The true attack force had been sent elsewhere, leaving the Eidolon to be slaughtered. Except, it hadn't died. Grant scrolled further, his breath catching as he found the final mission logs. The ship had sent one last transmission before vanishing. It had made an unsanctioned hyperspace jump, one that should have torn it apart. Except it hadn't. The ship had survived. And something had changed it. The logs ended there, but now, 3 centuries later, the Eidolon was back. And it remembered. A knock at the door made him shut the terminal. "Come in." Commander Reeves entered, his face grim. "We just came out of hyperspace, sir." Grant stood. "What's the situation?" Reeves hesitated. "You need to see it for yourself." Grant followed him to the bridge. The moment he stepped onto the deck, his stomach dropped. Archeon Prime was burning. The massive city world, home to billions, was a sea of fire and devastation. Warships lay in ruins, shattered into pieces, their wreckage raining down on the planet's surface. Entire districts had been leveled. Emergency distress signals blinked across every channel, and in the heart of it all, hovering above the dying world like a judge passing sentence, was the Eidolon. The ship was different now. It no longer looked like a battered war relic lost to time. It had changed. Its hull had fused with something dark, something unnatural. It pulsed with eerie energy, its weapons brimming with power that no human or alien had ever wielded. And then the comms crackled to life. A voice, distorted, inhuman, spoke. "High Command thought we were dead. They were wrong." Grant's blood ran cold. The Eidolon had already begun its vengeance, and humanity's greatest stronghold was just the beginning. Admiral Grant gripped the edge of the command console, his knuckles white. The Eidolon hovered over Archeon Prime like an executioner, its hull pulsing with an eerie, unnatural energy. Below it, the planet burned, entire districts reduced to rubble, warships floating lifeless in orbit. The bridge of the Iron Wrath was deathly silent. No one dared speak. They were witnessing something beyond war, beyond revenge. This was judgment. Then the voice returned. "We were abandoned, left to die in the void, but the void doesn't forget." The words came through every frequency, every comm channel, as if the Eidolon was speaking directly to the minds of those who had once condemned it. "You took everything from us. Now we take everything from you." The ship moved. It was subtle, a slow shift in position, but Grant knew what was coming. He had seen what the Eidolon had done to the Xyloth. If it fired that same erasing weapon on the planet below— "Sir," O'Hara whispered, fear thick in her voice, "they're going to wipe out the entire colony." Grant's mind raced. There was no reasoning with the idolon. It had made its intent clear. It was not here for war. It was here for obliteration. But they had to try. "Open a channel," Grant ordered. O'Hara hesitated, then nodded. "Channel open, sir." Grant stepped forward. His voice was steady, but his heart pounded. "This is Admiral Elias Grant of the Sol Federation. We know what was done to you. It was a betrayal of the worst kind, and nothing I say will erase that. But the people below, civilians, families, they had nothing to do with this. Don't make them suffer for what High Command did." For a moment, there was silence. Then, "You think we are human enough to care?" The words were colder than the void itself. "We were human once. We bled, we suffered, we died in the dark. You made us into something else. Now you face what you created." The Eidolon's weapons powered up. The energy buildup was unmistakable. The same dark, erasing force that had annihilated the Zeloth fleet was now aimed at the planet below. Grant acted on instinct. "Weapons, target their primary power core." Commander Reeves spun to him in shock. "Sir, you want to fire on them?" "We don't have a choice." Grant's voice was steel. "If we don't stop them now, billions will die." Reeves hesitated, then nodded. "Aye, sir." The Iron Wrath's battered weapons came online. Across the fleet, the surviving ships powered up what little firepower they had left. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. Grant gave the order. "Fire!" The void exploded in light as railguns and missile barrages streaked toward the Eidolon. The ghost ship didn't evade. It didn't raise shields. It didn't need to. The moment the first volley struck, the Eidolon pulsed. Not with fire, not with destruction, with absence. The weapons simply vanished before impact, erased from existence as if they had never been. O'Hara gasped. "Sir, they—" Then the Eidolon retaliated. The dark energy surged outward in a wave. The nearest Federation battleship, the Horizon's Edge, took the full impact, and then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone. No explosion, no wreckage, just erased. A cold, mechanical voice followed. "You cannot fight us. We are already dead." The bridge of the Iron Wrath erupted in chaos. Officers scrambled for solutions, for some way to stop the unstoppable. But deep down, Grant knew the truth. They were facing something beyond their understanding. The Eidolon wasn't just a ship anymore. It was vengeance incarnate, and nothing could stand in its way. Panic rippled through the bridge of the Iron Wrath. Officers shouted over one another, scrambling for solutions, for anything that could stop what was happening. But deep in his gut, Admiral Grant knew the truth. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. The Eidolon hovered motionless over Archeon Prime, its dark energy building into something even worse than before. The Zeloth fleet had been erased ship by ship, but now the ghost ship wasn't targeting individual vessels. It was preparing to erase an entire planet. "We were left to die in the void. Now we return the favor." The voice echoed through every comm channel, every screen, every speaker. It wasn't just a transmission, it was a verdict, and the sentence was annihilation. Grant's throat tightened. "O'Hara, is there any way to break through its systems? Overload it? Shut it down?" O'Hara was already working, her fingers flying over her console. "Sir, this ship, whatever it is now, it's not running on anything I recognize. No standard reactor signatures, no known frequencies. It's like it's alive." "We need to stop it now," Commander Reeves said, "or Archeon Prime is gone." Grant turned to the comms officer. "Hail them again." O'Hara's voice was thin. "Sir, they ignored us before." "Do it anyway." A tense moment passed. Then static crackled. And then, impossibly, the Eidolon answered. "You have nothing to offer us, Admiral. You are just another voice of a dying empire." Grant took a breath. His mind raced, searching for something, anything that could reach them. They were human once. What is left of them? You want justice, he said carefully. And I don't blame you. You were betrayed. The Federation erased you. But this? He motioned to the burning world below. This isn't justice. This is extermination. Silence. Then, laughter. Cold. Hollow. You speak as if we are still human enough to care. That was burned out of us long ago. The ship's power surged again. A death sentence. Grant clenched his fists. Reasoning wouldn't work. Fighting was suicide. That left only one option. A desperate, insane, impossible option. O'Hara, pull up the Eidolon's last known mission logs before they vanished. Cross-reference their crew manifest with any surviving descendants on Archeon Prime. O'Hara's hands blurred across the console. Seconds felt like eternity. Then she gasped. Sir, I found something. A name flashed on screen. Commander Nathaniel Voss, the Eidolon's last recorded captain, declared Koi IA 3 centuries ago. But the bloodline hadn't ended. His great-great-granddaughter lived on Archeon Prime. Grant exhaled sharply. Patch me through to her, now. O'Hara's fingers flew over the console. A moment later, a shaky voice came through the speakers. This is Dr. Elena Voss. The woman's voice crackled, barely above a whisper. I don't know what's happening. The city is collapsing. People are disappearing. The sky... Elena, Grant interrupted. I don't have time to explain. But you need to speak to them. To the Eidolon. She hesitated. What? You are the only one who might be able to stop this. Silence. Then, quietly, she said, Patch me through. O'Hara worked fast. The open channel remained. Elena inhaled, then spoke. This is Elena Voss. She swallowed. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you do, I need you to stop this. For the first time since the Eidolon appeared, the eerie hum of its power wavered. Silence. Then a voice, colder than death itself. That name is gone. Elena's voice trembled. No, it isn't. You are Nathaniel Voss. You were a hero once, my ancestor. You were betrayed, yes, but this isn't who you were. We are not him, she pressed on. Maybe not. Maybe you've changed. But some part of you remembers. Otherwise you wouldn't have hesitated just now. Another silence. Then, for the first time, the Eidolon spoke in something softer. We remember. The hum of its weapon dimmed slightly. Grant dared to hope. But hope was fragile, and the Idolon was still the Void's creation. Elena Voss's voice trembled, but she refused to back down. You remember, don't you? She pressed, her words barely above a whisper. You remember who you were. For a long moment, the Eidolon did not respond. The enormous, pulsing warship remained still, hovering like a specter over Archeon Prime. But the planet-killing energy that had been building wavered, just slightly. On the bridge of the Iron Wrath, no one moved, no one spoke. Everyone knew this was their only chance. Then, finally, the voice came again. Nathaniel Voss is dead. We all are. Elena took a shaky breath. You say you're dead, but you came back. That means something. You chose to return. Why? A deep, unnatural hum filled the comms, like something thinking, considering. To deliver judgment. Elena clenched her fists. On who? High Command? The people who betrayed you? The ones who sent you to die? Yes. Then why are you punishing people who weren't even born when it happened? Silence. The energy pulse around the Eidolon flickered again, just for a second. You think we don't know suffering? Elena's voice rose now, her fear turning into something else. Defiance. You think we don't bleed, don't grieve? I grew up believing my family's legacy ended with honor. that the Eidolon was lost fighting for humanity. But now I know the truth. Her voice cracked. Now I know my ancestor and his crew were abandoned, forgotten. And I hate High Command for that. But I won't let you turn that hate into this. Hate is all we have left. Then let it go, Elena pleaded. Or do you want to be exactly what they made you? An instrument of destruction? A weapon? That's all the Federation ever saw you as. That struck something deep. The Eidolon pulsed, wavered. For the first time since its return, the ship felt unsure. Grant felt his breath catch. Maybe, just maybe, they were reaching whatever was left inside that twisted, resurrected ship. But then the darkness pushed back. You think words change what was done? The voice sharpened, distorted, a chorus of something no longer quite human. 3 centuries of agony, 3 centuries of silence. Do you think that can be undone with pleas? The planet-erasing weapon began building again. Grant's stomach dropped. They were losing them. But Elena wasn't finished. Her voice turned from sorrow to something steely. Then take your vengeance, but do it the right way. Don't be their monster. Go after the people who deserve it, not innocent families, not children. The Eidolon hesitated. And you would tell us who deserves judgment? Elena exhaled. You already know who does. The void seemed to shift. Then the voice returned, softer. High Command. Elena nodded. Yes. For a moment, silence reigned. Then the Eidolon did something no one expected. It turned. The massive, world-killing warship rotated away from Archeon Prime. The death energy it had been preparing dissipated. Instead, it realigned its course, straight toward Earth. Grant's blood ran cold. This wasn't over. The Eidolon had spared Archeon Prime. But now, it was heading for the true architects of its suffering, humanity's own leaders, and nothing would stop it. The bridge of the Iron Wrath erupted into chaos. Officers scrambled over consoles, shouting reports and updates. Alarms blared. The Idolon has altered course, O'Hara confirmed, her voice tight with disbelief. It's heading for Sol system, estimated arrival in 24 hours. Admiral Grant's stomach twisted. They had stopped the destruction of Archeon Prime, but they hadn't stopped the Idolon. It had simply redirected its vengeance toward the true architects of its suffering. Earth, High Command. Grant turned sharply to O'Hara. Open a channel to High Command, now. O'Hara hesitated. Sir, they ignored us last time. They won't ignore this. The holographic display flickered to life. Once again, Admiral Lorik's cold, unblinking face appeared. But this time, there was tension behind his mask. You have exactly 10 seconds to explain why you're contacting me again, Grant, Lorik said. Grant didn't waste a second. The Eidolon is coming for you. A flicker of unease crossed Lorik's face, but he recovered quickly. That ship is a myth. Then you can explain to me why a myth just wiped out a Zeloth fleet, nearly obliterated Archeon Prime, and is now on a direct course for Earth, Grant snapped. Lorik exhaled slowly, as if weighing his words. And then, for the first time, he didn't deny it. Instead, he leaned forward. How long do we have? Grant wasn't surprised. He knew. He had always known. 24 hours, Grant said, maybe less. Lorik's expression darkened. He turned to someone off-screen. Activate Sol Defense Protocol. Mobilize all fleets. Grant's gut clenched. You don't understand. You can't fight the Eidolon. Every weapon we threw at it was erased before it even hit. That ship is beyond us now. Lorik's voice was flat. Then what do you suggest? That we surrender? Grant hesitated. But this is not a war we win with battleships. We need to talk to them. Lorik scoffed. Negotiate with a ghost? Grant's jaw tightened. They were human once. There's something left in there. I just watched Elena Voss stop them from wiping out Archeon Prime. That means they can choose. Lorik's gaze flickered. Voss? Elena Voss. She's a descendant of the Eidolon's last captain. A long silence stretched between them. Then Lorik exhaled and muttered something under his breath. I should have had that bloodline erased, he muttered. Grant's blood ran cold. You knew about them. Lorik looked back at him, eyes like stone. You think you're the first fool to try and dig up the past? We buried the Eidolon for a reason. Grant's stomach twisted in disgust. And now that past is coming to kill you. Lorik straightened. Then we'll meet it with fire. The comms cut out. Grant exhaled, rage and helplessness twisting inside him. Sir, Reeves said, his voice low. What now? Grant looked at the star map. The Eidolon was moving, an unstoppable force toward Earth, and High Command would throw everything at it, making the destruction even worse. He made his decision. We beat the Idolon to Earth, he said. We get Elena there before it's too late. O'Hara blinked. Sir, even at full burn, we'd be pushing our engines to the limit. Then we push them. No one argued. Engines roared to life. The stars stretched as the Iron Wrath leaped into hyperspace. Time was running out. The ghosts of the past were coming home. And this time, they would not be stopped. The Iron Wrath tore through hyperspace at speeds beyond safe limits, its engines burning hot as it raced toward Earth. The ship groaned under the strain, but Admiral Grant knew there was no other choice. They had to reach Seoul before the Eidolon. They had one chance to stop it. Elena Voss sat in the war room, her hands shaking as she stared at the planet growing larger on the screen. Earth, humanity's cradle, the heart of the Federation, the place where the betrayal had begun. She knew the Eidolon would show no mercy, and High Command would fight to the last ship, even if it meant taking the entire Sol system with them. We're coming out of hyperspace, O'Hara announced. The ship jolted, and suddenly, the void was filled with war. The Sol Defense Fleet was fully mobilized. Hundreds of ships surrounded Earth, forming an impenetrable wall of steel and fire. Defense platforms powered up, missile silos locked onto an approaching threat. And there, emerging from the blackness like a nightmare given form, the Eidolon. It was different now. Larger. Darker. It was no longer a relic of the past, but something beyond human or alien design. Energy rippled off its hull, bending the very fabric of reality around it. It was no longer just a warship. It was something else. High Command is launching everything they have, Reeves said grimly. Grant watched as the first wave of Earth's defenses fired. Hundreds of missiles, plasma beams, and railgun rounds screamed toward the Eidolon, and then they vanished. Not detonated, not deflected, just gone, erased from existence before impact. The Eidolon did not slow. It spoke. High Command, your crimes cannot be buried any longer. Your judgment has come. Earth's fleets scrambled, battleships reoriented. But it didn't matter. The Eidolon fired a single shot. A ripple of black energy surged forward, erasing an entire line of warships in an instant. Chaos. Earth's forces broke formation, officers screaming into comms, weapons discharging in desperation. But the Eidolon was inevitable. And then, Elena stepped forward. She gripped the console, activating the open channel. This is Dr. Elena Voss. Her voice wavered but did not break. I am speaking to whoever is left aboard the Eidolon. The ship hesitated. For the first time, it hesitated. Voss. Elena swallowed hard. Yes, I am of your blood. I carry your name, and I know what was done to you. She took a shuddering breath. But this isn't the way. Silence. Then the voice, less mechanical, more human. We were forsaken. We were erased. You were, she agreed, and what happened to you was a crime that deserves justice, not annihilation. There is no justice, only vengeance. No, she whispered, there's still choice. The void held its breath. Grant, Reeves, O'Hara, no one dared move. Elena pressed forward. If you destroy Earth, you become exactly what they turned you into, a weapon, their weapon. That's not what my ancestor was. That's not what you were. The Eidolon trembled. A long silence. Then, we remember. The energy buildup around the ship faltered. The death weapon that had wiped out fleets, that had nearly erased Archeon Prime, dimmed. On the warfront, High Command saw their opening. Grant's heart stopped. They're preparing a full counterattack, O'Hara whispered. They think it's vulnerable. Tell them to stand down, Grant barked, but it was too late. The Sol fleet fired. A barrage of missiles and railgun fire struck the Eidolon while it hesitated. Explosions rippled across its hull, energy bursts distorting in its gravity field. It screamed, not in pain, not in destruction, but in betrayal. The entire ship convulsed, pulsing with a violent, unstable energy. The void itself warped around it. Grant's breath caught. No! The Eidolon did not retaliate. It did not destroy Earth. Instead, it began to collapse. The unnatural energy consuming it spiraled inward, pulling at the ship, dragging it back into whatever abyss it had crawled from. On the open channel, the voice returned. Warped, breaking apart. This was never our home. We were never meant to return. The ship began folding inward, light bending around it. The Eidolon, the most powerful weapon humanity had ever abandoned, was leaving. Not destroyed, not defeated, simply departing, back into the void where it had been remade. Elena pressed a trembling hand against the screen. Goodbye. And with a final, shuddering pulse, the Eidolon vanished, not erased, not destroyed, just gone. The battlefield fell silent. The war was over, but the wound it had left, of betrayal, of secrets buried too deep, would never truly heal. And somewhere, far beyond the edge of known space, the Eidolon drifted, waiting, watching, and remembering.